I assure you after watching this video, you will gain new insight into appreciating Jun Takahashi's work at Undercover. See, we all know that Jun Takahashi is an artist through and through. Yes, he is a Harajuku legend. Yes, he knows Hiroji Fujiwara as an ego. And yes, he co-founded Nowhere and was part of a band called Tokyo Sex Pistols. We all know that. And this is what people often boil his background down to. And this is also what a lot of people will base their opinion on, this understanding of him being a punk-loving artist. Although this video isn't necessarily about his background, I need to ask you to discard what you previously know about him, what you think defines him as a fashion legend, and only keep this one thing in mind. Undercover is Jun Takahashi's one of many artistic outlets. With that said, let's have a look at this Instagram post posted by Jun Takahashi himself. In this post, it features an oil painting reminiscent of Rene Magritte's Surrealist painting. The caption details that he will be holding his first ever solo oil painting exhibition. One important detail that I would love your focus on is this line right here. I am self-taught in oil painting and have been painting 26 oil paintings through trial and error since 2013. Now it's finally time to share them. This right here is important. His statement that he began a formal attempt at oil painting in 2013, that's more than 10 years ago. And if you give his Instagram profile a quick scroll, you'd find that most of the painting embody a surrealist element, specifically one that resembles Rene Magritte's, as I mentioned. Rene Magritte is the Belgian painter that drew the painting with the man in the top hat with an apple in front of him. You probably have seen it before. Or the painting with raining men. With that said, we can also safely assume that his love for surrealist art started much earlier than 2013, because I guess it's logical to assume that he liked something for a while and then decided to take on the challenge of bringing his own ideas to life. Now, before we continue, let's have a little look into what exactly defines surrealism. When it comes to surrealism, perhaps the most famous name is Rene Magritte, Frida Kahlo, and Salvador Dali, the mad-looking guy with an even crazier mustache, who drew these dreamlike paintings, but also weirdly calming. Or one step further, surrealist clothes between Elsa Schiaparelli and Dali. According to Tate Modern, a famous art museum in London, defines surrealism as something that, I'm just going to read it out right now, surrealism aims to revolutionize human experience. It balances a rational vision of life with one that asserts the power of the unconscious and dreams. The movement's artists find magic and strange beauty in the unexpected and the uncanny, the disregarded and the unconventional. So the point of surrealist art is to combine the logical and illogical, the dreamlike and reality together. And instead of focusing on the technical aspect of the painting, like Impressionism or Cubism, surrealism more so focused on the artist's ability to communicate what is dreamlike, what is irrational, and what are they going to keep as notions of reality. It seems like Jun Takahashi shares a similar sense of fantasy with Rene by obstructing and obscuring the subject's face, distorting it. Like something you'd see in a dream, the faces on people elude you. You just can't make out what they look like, or you can't even remember. Another painting by Takahashi titled Simple Desire has the subject's eyes blurred out. Just like this painting right here. Even this simple picture of him appreciating his own art had the hat perfectly placed on the painting's blurred eyes. Maybe I'm reading into the artistic choices here, but I don't think it's coincidental. Because take a look at this photo of him with Virgil Abloh and Pier Paolo Piccioli. He also covered his eyes. And this was taken in 2019. And this random photo of Rei Kawakubo, face is not in frame at all. Come on. There's so many more paintings that he posted on his Instagram that you can immediately tell his style of surrealism. So my point here is that Jun Takahashi is an artist that has a love for surrealism, and it's safe to assume that this love for surrealism will seep into fashion. I will attempt to point out things that I think link to the application of surrealism in his archive, but his latest two collections were what inspired me to dive into this correlation between his love for surrealism and fashion. So let's start there. First things first, let's look at the Spring-Summer 25 women's collection. It features the artwork of Italian painter Robert Bosisio, which are the dreamy landscape with the door behind the models. I can't define Robert Bosisio as a surrealist artist, but his work explores the abstraction, the blurring of things, and of course, dreamscapes. Secondly, the faces are obstructed with masks. Same thing seen in one collection prior, which we will talk about it in a bit. And as discussed, obstructing the subject's face seems to be Jun Takahashi's choice of bending reality. One final thing that tied the surrealism, possible surrealism, together for me in this collection is the final 15 looks of the collection. mannequin-like mannerisms. It is really odd, and it is not normally how models would pose. Another thing that I should point out is that unless he genuinely decided to surround a certain collection and photo shoots around the idea of surrealism, the signs are going to be quite subtle, because when surrealism explores the idea of what is irrational, it requires an obvious bending of rules to clearly convey that this is irrational. But in the case of fashion, or at least selling fashion, sometimes things need to be tamer. So the indicators that I'm pointing out or will be pointing out can be interpreted either way. However, the idea of this video is to provide a perspective. A perspective isn't about being correct, but to introduce an extra side of consideration. If it amuses you to look at things through this lens and it gives you extra value in appreciating certain things, then that's all that's required for you to go ahead with this perspective. If you think it's far-fetched, it also doesn't hurt just to ignore me. Moving on. For the collection before SS25 women's wear, it's the SS25 menswear. Models are wearing the same type of mask when walking down the runway. With this collection, Jun Takahashi was heavily inspired by the sound of Indian-Australian band Glass Beams. And as you can see here, Glass Beams wears masks as well. I suppose their intention with mask wearing is to hide their identity and help listeners to focus on the music instead of the band members. And the point here is that Glass Beams is not only audibly inspiring Takahashi, but the fact that you can't see their faces also form a connection with Jun's style of facial obstruction. And if you've heard Glass Beams' music, you know that their songs are pretty otherworldly. However, it's not just about the mask. It's not just about not being able to see their faces. Jun Takahashi also directly printed his artwork onto clothes. For example, this painting of his, Green Creature. Here we see again the same unknown man without eyes on the corner of the sweater. Underneath it, a really poetic quote. "You're made to feel ugly, and I made ugly beautiful just by persistence." This actually is not the full quote. The full quote is followed by, "Nobody has the right to say that I'm ugly, and I will not be a professional victim." You know. Sorry, by none other than the famous Johnny Rotten. Time back to the Sex Pistols love. You can also see the blurred out portraits printed here on knits, which are once again works of Robert Bosisio. These two collections are the most on the nose that there is a possibility in surrealist fashion. Like this Schiaparelli dress in collaboration with Salvador Dali. It's a dress with a lobster on it. And according to Philadelphia Museum of Art, this dress is called the Woman's Dinner Dress by Elsa Schiaparelli, and it was inspired by Dali's series of lobster telephones. Dali, who saw the lobster as an archetype of sexuality, designed the dress with an image of the animal across the crotch area. Lobster isn't anything special, but the application of a random lobster on telephones and now a dress is out of place. It's odd, it's strange, it's like something you'd see in a dream. Normally people would not do it or even think about it. But if it's meant to be irrational, then now we can appreciate it from the point of view of that doesn't make much sense and find beauty in the nonsensical. We can possibly apply the same appreciation framework to the Spring-Summer 24 women's wear collection, the jaw-dropping Butterfly collection. Before the absolutely breathtaking finale, there are hints of nods to surrealism, like this coat right here, with the painting of Neo Rausch's printed on it, and his work is said to be influenced by Surrealists, though he himself would not align with Surrealism. There are definitely notable influences. And of course, these paintings of his, once again. And then comes the dreamy-looking microcosms dresses. These logically don't make much sense, and no one will ever wear a dress out with live butterflies. I mean, if they have no concern for life, then sure. But these dresses are meant to take us out of reality. It's a bit absurd. It's otherworldly and makes you question what exactly are you seeing right now? What exactly is Jun Takahashi doing? Another act to force us out of reality and to dream a little bit. In the Fall-Winter 2016 collection, you can see once again an obvious point towards surrealism with the work of Matteo Borrell. This design book by Takahashi for SS15 shows painting of Hieronymus Bosch as well, the famous fantastical painter that McQueen also referenced. Even the earlier collection of Guru Guru felt like a nightmare, and he also painted part of the Guru Guru collection, seen right here, as I do think it fits his whole surrealist vibe. Of course, just because something looks slightly weird doesn't mean that it's surrealism. No, it does not. Once again, I'm just trying to point out things that can possibly link to his love for surrealist art. But this video is like an introduction of, hey, maybe you can look at Jun Takahashi's work from this perspective from now on. I know how sometimes a really brilliant collection can steer your attention away from the bigger picture. And the bigger picture being what the designer stands for and what he wants to explore with his clothes, artistically. This video also serves as my way of telling you that sometimes you should look at a designer's whole work portfolio with the intention of finding connections throughout. Some ideas require multiple collections or even years to come to fruition. Just like my dive into Takahashi's possible application of surrealism in fashion, if true, it's been more than 10 years since he started experimenting with it on his clothes. And if we all treat this as just Jun's random burst of creativity, or oh, it probably doesn't mean much, then many things in fashion will go unnoticed and unappreciated, and that's not what we're trying to do here. So what do you think? Let me know down below in the comments if you see a connection. Do you think it's far-fetched? Am I just reaching right here? Let me know. We'll love to engage in a discussion with you. And don't forget to share this video, subscribe, like, the whole 9. Do the whole thing. Love you guys. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.